The music echoed through the empty corridors of Sterling Financial like a ghost of joy that didn't belong there. Victoria Sterling pressed pause on her laptop at 9:47 p.m., exhausted from another 18-hour day building her late father's company into something he'd be proud of. As CEO, she'd learned to tune out most sounds: the hum of computers, the buzz of fluorescent lights, the mechanical whoosh of the cleaning crew's equipment. But this was different. This was Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, delicate and achingly beautiful. Drifting from somewhere down the hall, she stood, her heels silent on the plush carpet as she followed the music toward the employee break room. What she saw through the doorway stopped her breath and changed everything she thought she knew about success. David Chen stood in the center of the modest break room, his janitor's uniform slightly damp from hours of work, his arms extended in perfect waltz position. But he wasn't dancing alone. In his arms, her small feet balanced on top of his worn work boots, was a girl of about 8 years old. Her eyes were closed, not in concentration, but in the permanent darkness of blindness, and her face radiated pure, transcendent joy. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. David counted softly, his voice gentle as a lullaby. Feel the rhythm, Lily. The music isn't something you hear. It's something you become. Like this, Daddy? The little girl's voice sparkled with delight as they turned slowly, carefully, her father's strong hands keeping her safe and grounded even as they helped her fly. Exactly like that, sweetheart. You're dancing on clouds. Victoria stood frozen in the doorway, an intruder in a moment so intimate and pure it felt sacred. She should have walked away, should have given them privacy. But something about the scene held her transfixed, this exhausted man in his 50s, who'd just finished cleaning 15 floors of office space, dancing with his blind daughter as though they were in a grand ballroom instead of a break room that smelled of burnt coffee and microwaved lunches. I wish I could see you dancing. Daddy, Lily said suddenly, her small voice carrying a weight that broke Victoria's heart. Everyone at school says their dads are handsome. I want to see if you are too. David's step faltered for just a moment, and Victoria saw his jaw clench with emotion. But when he spoke, his voice remained steady, warm, unbreakable. You see me better than anyone, Lily Bean. You see me with your heart. That's the truest kind of seeing there is. But I want to see the colors. You always tell me about colors. Blue, like my favorite blanket, feels soft. Yellow, like sunshine, feels warm. What color are your eyes, Daddy? Brown, like chocolate. Like the earth. Like home. And what color is love? David stopped dancing. He knelt down, still holding his daughter's hands, bringing himself to her level. Victoria watched as this tired man, who she'd probably passed 100 times without really seeing, became the most beautiful thing she'd ever witnessed. Love doesn't have a color, sweetheart. Love is every color at once. It's what you feel when I hold you, when I read you stories in funny voices, when we danced together after my shift, even though my feet hurt and I'm tired. Love is the only thing in this world that blind eyes can see perfectly. Lily threw her arms around her father's neck, and he held her like she was made of starlight and miracles. Victoria felt tears streaming down her face, and that's when David noticed her. His eyes widened in recognition, not of Victoria the person, but Victoria the CEO whose portrait hung in the lobby, whose name was on every paycheck, whose approval could end his employment with a single word. He stood quickly, protectively placing himself between his daughter and this unexpected witness. Miss Sterling, I'm sorry. I didn't think anyone was still here. I can finish cleaning this floor and— How long have you worked here? Victoria's voice came out rougher than she intended. 6 years, ma'am. And you bring your daughter to work with you? David's shoulders squared, defensive pride replacing his initial fear. Every night. My wife passed away 3 years ago. Complications from Lily's premature birth, the same birth that took Lily's sight. I don't have family nearby. Daycare costs more than I make. Babysitters won't take a blind child overnight. So yes, I bring her with me. She does her homework, listens to her audiobooks, and when I'm done, we dance. It's the only time we get together. I'm a good worker, Ms. Sterling. I never miss a section. Never leave anything dirty. Lily doesn't touch anything, doesn't disturb— Stop! Victoria held up her hand, her voice cracking. Just stop. She walked into the room, and Lily's head turned toward the sound of unfamiliar footsteps, her sightless eyes somehow still managing to search. "Who's there?" the little girl asked, her small hand finding her father's. "My name is Victoria. I work here too. I just watched you dance with your father, and it was the most beautiful thing I've seen in a very long time." "Really?" Lily's face lit up. "Daddy's teaching me all the dances. Waltz, foxtrot, and next week we're learning tango. He says dancing is like flying without leaving the ground. Do you dance, Victoria?" "I used to. A long time ago. Before I forgot how." "Daddy says you never forget. It's like riding a bike, but prettier and with more twirling." Victoria laughed, a sound that felt foreign in her own throat. When was the last time she'd laughed? Really laughed? She'd been so busy building empires that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be simply messily human. "Mr. Chen, could you please bring Lily to my office tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Don't worry, you're not in trouble. I just want to talk." That night, Victoria didn't sleep. She researched. She discovered that David Chen had been a celebrated architect in Shanghai before immigrating to America with his pregnant wife 15 years ago. His credentials hadn't transferred. His English wasn't strong enough for client meetings. His wife had medical complications that drained their savings. And when she died, leaving him with a blind daughter and mountains of debt, he'd taken the only job he could get, night janitor at Sterling Financial, working while his daughter slept in the break room, dancing with her during his breaks to remind them both that life still held beauty. The next morning, Victoria called an emergency board meeting. Not with David, he didn't know about this yet. This was for the executives, the people who made the real decisions. 15 years ago, my father built this company on one principle: profit above all else, efficiency, results, numbers, and I've continued that legacy. But last night I saw something that made me question everything we've built. She told them about David and Lily, about the dancing, about the love that existed in the shadows of their pristine building while they chased quarterly earnings and market share. "This company is worth $800 million, Victoria continued, her voice gaining strength. "But David Chen, who keeps our floors clean and our building running, has to bring his blind daughter to work every night because we pay him so little he can't afford childcare." "What does that say about us? About what we value?" "It says we're a business, not a charity," someone muttered. Victoria turned to face the speaker. "It says we're blind. Far more blind than that 8-year-old girl. She can see love, beauty, and possibility in a break room at midnight. What can we see? Spreadsheets? Stock prices? We're so busy chasing success that we've forgotten what success is actually for." She outlined her plan: a complete overhaul of compensation for all service staff, on-site childcare facilities, scholarships for employees' children, a program to help foreign-trained professionals recertify in their original fields. The board resisted. The CFO called it financial suicide. The shareholders would revolt. "Then let them," Victoria said quietly. "Fire me if you want. But I'm doing this, with you or without you, because last night a janitor making minimum wage showed me what it means to be truly rich. He has nothing except love, and he's the wealthiest person in this building." The vote was close, but it passed. When David arrived at Victoria's office at 10 a.m., terrified he was about to lose his job, he found something else entirely: a contract offering him a position in Sterling Financial's new architectural division, a department being created specifically to give foreign-trained professionals a second chance. A salary that would let him rent a real apartment, hire proper care for Lily, maybe even save for her future. But that wasn't all. Victoria had contacted the best pediatric ophthalmologists in the country. Lily's blindness, they said, might be partially correctable with an experimental surgery, one that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. One that Sterling Financial's new employee medical fund would completely cover. David collapsed in Victoria's office chair, his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs. Lily, sitting beside him, reached out and found her father's arm. "Why are you sad, Daddy? Did something bad happen?" "No, sweetheart," David choked out. Something impossible happened. Something wonderful. 3 months later, Lily Chen saw her father's face for the first time. The surgery was a success, not complete vision, but enough. Enough to see colors, enough to see the brown eyes he'd described, enough to see him clearly. And 6 months after that, at Sterling Financial's first annual Employee Appreciation Gala, Lily and David danced again. But this time, they danced in a ballroom filled with colleagues who knew their names, their stories, their value. Victoria watched from the side, tears streaming freely, as Lily looked up at her father with eyes that finally could see what her heart had always known. That love was indeed every color at once. David caught Victoria's eye across the room and mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." But Victoria shook her head. She walked onto the dance floor and knelt beside Lily just as David had done that night in the break room. "Thank you," Victoria whispered. "You and your father taught me that the measure of a company isn't its market value. It's whether the people who build it can dance at the end of the day." The music swelled. The building gleamed. And for the first time in years, Victoria Sterling understood what her father had gotten wrong and what David Chen had gotten right. Success isn't what you build. It's who you become while building it. And the truest wealth is measured in moments of love that exist in the margins of our carefully planned lives. The janitor and his daughter had taught the CEO how to see. And in seeing them, she'd finally learned to see herself, not as a titan of industry, but as a human being who'd been blind to what mattered most. Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones teaching the most important lessons. We just have to stop long enough to watch them dance.